going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Griff here, joined by Walla on the Gold Boys Network, brought to you by Pickett. Pickett, the top app for tracking your bets and seeing what your friends are on. So we enter into a new month. Pickett makes it really easy, see how November went, what sports were working, what sports weren't. Hopefully hockey was up there with the sports that were working out last month. Thanks to Pickett for making this show possible. And we're on to a new week number 10 in the NHL. How are we doing, Walla?
All right. I think just looking around Twitter and just general, the chats I'm in, seems like a lot of people had a nice week and things. A lot of the the research was lining up and seemed to be getting everything. I think that's been really nice for us. We can keep that rolling.
Agreed. You're a little choppy for me. I'm hoping that's just on my end and not everyone else's. So I don't know, maybe detach your phone from Wi-Fi while.
Yeah, I got everything disconnected. Sorry.
That's all right. Just don't do it again, please. Just giving you a hard time. I would agree with your sentiment that things seem to be turning back, which is good. Especially props. I think there was a brief time there. You would always stay strong, everyone relax, shot props are fine. And I think we're seeing that in the last couple of days. Just the guys that are reliable are coming through. And I'm feeling more confident in the market again. I think you would agree.
Yep. That's pretty much where I line up as well.
I know before we get into tonight's slate, looking back from this past week, what are you taking with you? I feel like points props have stolen your heart a little bit.
Yeah, lots of good value on points props. These guys who play alongside players who are more juiced have some really nice lines. I think we'll touch on that a bit more later. But yeah, I think there's a lot of value there that people don't pay enough attention to in points props.
Yeah, I would agree. My biggest takeaway is I think I need to be a little more patient with some of these game totals and wait for goalies to be confirmed, because goalies really can shift a lot. Yesterday I was on Columbus Detroit over with our old friend that I already forget how to pronounce. The Detroit backup was expected to be in, and then Husso ended up starting again, and that sort of burned that over. So going to try to be a little more patient in that market and wait till, I don't know, hopefully 4 to 5 p.m. we get some clarity. Earlier would be awesome, but no need to rush out those plays sometimes when we don't know about goalies. But 6 games tonight. Why don't we just start with Colorado Philly, which I think offers some nice value. What are you seeing there?
The first thing that stuck out to me was Kevin Hayes. I noticed he was getting a -110 line, which on the season, it doesn't look that great for his overall hit rate, but he's been picking it up lately, getting shots on goal again, some nice volume. And Colorado on the road is a fine target, I think. So he stuck out a little bit to me.
Yeah, the -110, very nice. We've talked about it before. Avalanche let up a ton of power plays, and Hayes has been involved there. I like that one, to be honest. I'm going into the show a little live. I haven't had a ton of time to lock in any plays, so kind of probably discover things together a little bit. But when we were chatting before, I like the value on Hayes. I feel like centers against Colorado have been coming through. That could be a little bit of a blind comment, but I do like his value. Avs letting up 33 plus on the road. So I like Hayes. I think that might end up being a play for me.
Yeah. I wish a guy like Tippett was shooting a bit more. He was hot to start the season. But he's cooled off. Some of these lower lines and stuff have been nice targets, depending on matchups. We've been talking a lot about that in our kind of chat behind the scenes. But Hayes just started sticking out. His volume's back up, and he was good for us when he had the volume. So liking that one on that side. And then Colorado, McKinnon's up at 5.5. Uh, yeah, I've only seen that once before with him. He can shoot, but that's kind of high, you know.
Yeah, I would agree. Philly's actually been pretty tight to shots, at least at home. 5.5 is a very high number that I think I'll stay off of. I kind of want to take something involving the Avalanche scoring. Um, Carter Hart's been good, but Flyers are still letting up 3+ at home, and the Avs are the Avs, and I'm seeing, Philly's got a pretty bad penalty kill, and Colorado's power play is the best in the league. So I definitely think they can notch a couple there. I'm not sure how to approach that yet. I mean, the last 2 games Colorado's played against Philly, they've scored 13 goals. But, Colorado does have a lot of injuries right now, so a lot of those guys contributing are not on the ice tonight. But I'm thinking maybe a power play point could be a good angle, maybe Makar. I want to see how that's looking. But
you have props.cash open.
Always.
Can you? I think Lehkonen had been doing pretty solid on the road with shots and stuff. His volume's not crazy, but he was coming through.
Yeah, the funny thing about I literally right as we were going live, I got a message. Someone was chatting. I think Lehkonen's game time decision.
My gosh, yeah, they're they're brutal with those injuries over there or whatever it is.
Lehkonen has been very efficient. He's really not getting over 4 attempts. This is just total, but he was hitting 3 a ton.
Yeah.
Let me see how it was on the road if he can play. Yeah, I mean, he had 3+ in 8 of his last 10. He had 6 last time he played Philly. Could be a nice flag, but now his game time decision, which is just leaving Colorado. That could probably be why McKinnon's line is so high. Now that I think about it, there's just the burden kind of falls on him to create. I don't know. I like Colorado to get at least 3 goals. I don't know how to apply that belief yet. Maybe it's a point prop. Maybe it's power play pointer.
Got to be a McKinnon goal, right?
Yeah,
just all those people. They're just missing people game time decisions. Got to keep an eye on that though. That would be one that I'd probably wait just to see the lineups because who knows who could be bumped up a line, and we're just talking about points plays. If there's a guy who gets bumped up and he's with McKinnon or just with a better players, his price might not adjust right away. So keep an eye on those.
Yeah, I'm looking at daily faceoff right now for Colorado's lines. Their whole third line, they got some green players hitting the ice when none of them have the back of their jersey on daily faceoff. How it'll show their name and their number. The whole third line is just Colorado jerseys, just the bland. Kempfer has been shooting pretty well. I put him in a parlay that obviously lost, but he had scored the other night. Trying to just quickly bring up how he's looking. He's second line center and he's on the top power play line now. In a game, nice. Like as I mentioned, there's a pretty massive advantage there. Should the Avs get a couple chances? Let me just see. Kempfer plus 260 scored against Philly last year. Had 2 the other night. He's got 11 attempts in his last 2 games. That's interesting to me. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, that's huge. Depending on the lineups. I mean, that's good to see in general, and also if we see more players like Lehkonen, might be out or something. That's great. That would be great news for his volume all around. You would think just all these other players getting more chances.
Yeah, I mean, we alluded a little bit looking at some of these secondary players for points. He's minus 130 for a point. He had 2 against Philly last March. He had 4 against Buffalo the other night. And you can just see on his time on chart, part of the reason I love props.cash is you can just kind of see when a guy's role has shifted and then see how that's impacting things. He's had basically 5 minutes of power play ice time in each of the last 5 games. And he's gotten 6 points in those 5 games. So that's interesting.
Yeah. We have some people in chat. Somebody's asking about our goal scorer prospects for tonight. And I think we go through game by game kind of. So we'll touch on some guys we like. I mean, there's some value there. You were just talking about Kempfer here with him getting all that volume lately. So keep an eye on those lineups in this game. But if Lekkonen's out, I mean, McKinnon, the 5.5 makes sense now. He should definitely get enough attempts if they're missing all these people. So he could definitely score tonight. I don't know what the odds are right off the top of my head, but
Who?
for McKinnon, I imagine it's not great.
Plus 125.
Really, okay. Yeah, that's not bad at all. I think just pay attention to the line. He should have to do a bunch tonight. I think if Lekkonen's out.
I like the Kempfer goal. I'm gonna noodle on
Yeah.
that one, but plus 260 there for a guy. I'm just seeing his shots go way up. And just, I mean, someone's got to move the puck here on this Colorado offense with so many people out. So especially if Lackinen is out, I like that Kempfer goal at plus 260 is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Let's keep it moving. The next game I see is St. Louis, New York. I think we're both okay to skip over that one in the interest of time. When I look at the numbers, I think you can make some merit to some Ranger shots. I just have had a really hard time figuring out who on that team is going to hit their shot line. If the Blues let up a little more penalties, I'd feel a little bit better about going to the big three of Mika or Kreider or Trocheck. Only thing I wrote down is Blues let up a lot to defensemen. So I'd love to go to my old friend Trouba, but he is just not been shooting the last couple of games. He did hit last time he played the Blues. He's minus 114. I think it's interesting, but not in love with it. So I got nothing else for that game. I don't think you do either, right?
No, that was pretty much how I felt too. Looks like Rangers should be good for shots. Mika usually needs the power play. Blues aren't letting up too many. Maybe I don't know what like a saves line would be on the other side, but yeah, I would think they could get shots, but I'm just skipping this one.
So let's go to Vegas, Boston. Should be an awesome game. Two teams that are scoring a ton. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I think one that stood out to me is it was a guy we loved last season. Bergeron's getting it going again, and last season he was just a favorite. I mean, there's some streaks where he would start off at a minus 110 and then just hit like 5-6 games in a row, and by the end of that be like minus 150. He's a nice looking price still. I think he was around minus 110 or something like that. And he's been hitting recently. What's funny is he has nice volume, and he did have a dip in volume, I think, in the middle of his games. But to open the season, he had some nice volume as well. He just, I don't know what it was, if it was misses or blocks, but it seems like it's kind of, that positive regression now. The shots are landing on goal, and he has some nice volume. And I think he had a nice game against Vegas, one of the other times they met, for whatever that's worth. So he stuck out to me. I would love to see him become just like a auto bet again.
Yeah, it is. I agree. He looks pretty good. I'm seeing best odds at minus 108 on FanDuel. What I'm finding interesting here is he's hitting 5 straight, but the teams he's hit against is really sticks out to me. Tampa, Florida, Carolina, Tampa again, and Colorado. That just shows me a guy who's getting up against really quality opponents. Some of his misses lately: Chicago, Philly, Vancouver. So that's just kind of interesting that teams that we would like targeting, he was going under. and now just some of the league's best. He's going over and he's shooting like crazy. Um, he's averaging 7 attempts in his last 5 games. I think that's pretty solid for a Vegas against a Vegas team allowing over 32 on the road. And the Bruins they just do whatever they want at home. Um, they're scoring over 4. They shoot over 35 times a game as a team. I don't know. That seems like something we could bring to the finish line here.
I
I
do
don't
like
know.
it. Uh, like I said, it was his volume. He's had some nice volume games. It was just the matter of it finally balancing out, and that's that's what's happening. You could just that's what I like about looking at the attempts and stuff like that. Uh, just stats wise, stuff always tends to even out, and it's a good spot, I think. Stepping up against good opponents in Vegas, they're definitely good. I actually want to bring up the fact that like the first time we talked this season, I was like, I don't think Vegas is going to be that great.
Yeah, they'd be good.
You remember that? So I was wrong. I was wrong there. So if he's stepping up against quality opponents, this is definitely one.
Yeah. And I also find it
I
interesting.
like it.
He's hitting these shots the last 5 games, like we're mentioning. No goals to show for it. He did score once last year in 2 games against him. I like Boston to get. I was looking at their team total at 3.5, really just off the back of, Vegas is fine. When I look at the numbers every day, they let up 3 per game on the road. Not amazing, but 3 is 3. Just the fact the Bruins score so much. And a pretty massive power play edge. Vegas has really struggled killing penalties. They don't give up a ton, but when they do, they're only killing them at a 74% rate, which is bottom 10. And Boston is right behind Colorado for the second best power play scoring rate. Or they might be behind Dallas, but at least tonight they're second best that's hitting the ice. So Bergeron's involved there. His goals plus 170. I don't know. I'm thinking I might do Bergeron shots and half a unit on his goal. But the attempts he's getting, you got to think one's trickling in the net sooner before later.
Yeah, I definitely I definitely think he's gonna be worth a look more often than not. Just if this volume keeps up, it only makes sense that he's getting him on net now. So I think I that one is up towards the top on my list now because I didn't lock in many bets, so that's moving up there.
I will also note, do like Boston shots. Marchand broke our hearts Saturday on a night that it seemed like everyone everywhere was hitting their shots props. Marchand did not, but him against Vegas, going back to when Vegas became a team, he's got 6 shots, 3 shots, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. His line's 2.5. So you would need to parlay it with something, but I think that's a nice piece in a game. I think Boston's going to get 34 plus shots on net. Marchand would be involved, or so
Yeah,
you would hope.
got tons of points this season too. Been really reliable for a point.
He has been. I do think Boston's going to score on the power play tonight, and Marchand's got a power play point. I'm seeing in 6 of his last 9. Let's see how he's doing at home, if that impacts it at all. 6 of 9 at home too. He's got a power play point. Odds aren't great, plus 110, but certainly better than the minus 220 that his point is. But I know you do it on Bet365 sometimes if people have Fliff, or that might be it. Caesars goes so in and out I can't keep up. But going back to that Marchand over 2.5 and a point parlay could work.
Yeah,
I have seen it
tried
fail
it last week.
recently. It's hitting more than it's not when you look back at things. Anything on Vegas?
I don't know. I think somebody flagged that. Is Eichel a game time decision or something? I
I'm
think I
not
saw
sure.
somebody flag that. So that would be huge if he's out. But I
Uh,
don't know. I kind of just like the Bergeron looks kind of standing out.
Yeah, he left last game. Yeah, he's game time decision, and Petrangelo still out. I mean, that kind of makes me even just favor the Bruins to win this game, because not they score 4 at home, and Olmark, is that how you pronounce his name? Guy's been a force. Certainly helping them lead. They're only allowing 1.6 goals per game at home. And no power play edge for Vegas that I'm seeing. Bruins got a good penalty kill. Yeah, so if Eichel can't go, I don't know. I mean, the Bruins at home, I don't think they've lost at home yet, have they?
I'm not sure. I just know that they're just they're kind of almost matchup proof. I mean, they've had off games, but it just seems like if they get on the power play, pasta and stuff, they're just kind of lights out. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But that's all I got for that game.
Yeah, definitely favor Boston. I'm going to consider a couple ways to play that. I don't know if you can do like a Boston over 2.5 in money line on DraftKings. I wonder what that would look like, because I certainly think they can score and win. All right, let's keep it moving. Washington, Edmonton should have a lot. Conceivably, I think a lot looks good. First one I'm looking at is over 6.5, which is hitting 4 straight. That kind of just popped up to me because I'm seeing a lot of people really liking guys like Ovi and McDavid and Draisaitl to score. And when I start to just see all these names from the same game that people want to bet the score, I just start to go to the over a little bit. I mean, Washington's letting up 3.4 on the road. Edmonton obviously can do their scoring, and the Oilers let up a ton as well. So they're really always a good over team to look at. Bad PK, great power play should help Edmonton too. I like goals in this one. I think now we can narrow into a couple of players that look good.
Yeah, I agree with that look though. The over. If you like a lot of people, then the over definitely makes a lot of sense, and you don't have to hope for anybody in particular. But I do think there's some nice looking angles. You mentioned Draisaitl, and he's on fire. He's a goal in 5 straight. He's a goal in 3 straight games against Washington. He's, I think, in his last 5 games against them, he's got goals in 4. I want to say
4, but I think 5 total. I think he scored twice once.
Yep. So he's been hot against them in recent meetings. Just in general this season. I mean, 5 straight games. Normally, I once a guy gets on a hot streak, it's kind of like I always get the feeling of like I'm gonna bet it and he's gonna fall off. But I mean, his goal's been around plus 110-ish and stuff like that. So if you've been playing it, you're making money. This is another good look for him to get another one, even if he's already got it in 5 in a row. This is a nice spot to make 6 for him. He looks really nice tonight in the spot. And
I would agree. I wish Washington had a worse penalty kill, and gave up a little more penalties, because that's where him and McDavid have really thrived. But they're certainly not relying on power plays to do their scoring. I mean, sure, they scored 3 times on the power play the other night, but they can do it 5-on-5 too.
Yeah. I do have like a couple angles in this game that I'll briefly touch on them now, I guess, and then we can come back to them later, and I can go into them a little bit more. But both on the Washington side, Carlson, he's set up really nice for shots, I think, tonight. And then Dylan Strome, I think he can be in a spot to produce tonight, and he's reasonable for a point. So I'm going to come back to those later to touch on them more in depth. But I think this game should be fun.
Yeah, we can circle back. I agree with your read on those. We'll save them for the next section. Just to stick in this game for a moment, because again, I'm kind of perusing a lot of things live. I like both sides for shots. Prefer Edmonton for goals. You check out Nugent Hopkins. Did he catch your eye at all this morning? On Edmonton, he's plus 108. He's hitting three straight, and he's had four in the last two games against Washington, four in each.
Are you
So
talking
that's
shots or
shots, yeah.
okay.
So I'm just seeing a guy that's starting to hit the net a little bit more.
Washington's a fair target this season. Hopkins, I look, I he can definitely shoot, and that's obviously been clear. These past few games, when he comes to my mind, I think of like a playmaker, and yeah,
Oof.
he could be a viable target. I'm not saying he's not. That's what I think of when I think of him, and that's why I probably didn't dig into him too much. But that's a nice flag there that he's shooting more.
Well, I mean, so playmaker wise, wow, it's interesting this breakdown. He's got 5 points in his last two against Washington, but four of them are goals.
I guess he likes playing Washington.
He's got two goals in, and one of these games was in
That's fine.
November of this year. Wow! And not only is we're seeing his shots hit a little steadier, he's got a goal in two of his last three games.
Beautiful.
And he's got four goals in his last two. I'm going to add Ryan Nugent Hopkins down here to my notebook. I'm seeing plus 250 to score. His point is heavily juiced, would be far safer, minus 190. But again, I like the over. So when I do like the over, obviously I like to look at some guys to score and maybe try to, not that, Draisaitl is obviously rolling, but I like to try to look to the second level sometimes for goals. So that's very interesting to me.
Yeah,
I wonder,
with Draisaitl, I think it's important too that his shots are still sitting at 3.5, but that's not a line that he's been. I don't think he's been hitting it too often. So yeah, there's just different ways to approach it. Like if you're comfortable placing a unit on a guy, his shots and stuff, in general, Draisaitl I think is a guy where maybe you'd be more comfortable if you're going his way, put a unit on goal as a play in general. I'm not saying I'm going to do that tonight, but he's just a guy where it seems like his shot line is always, unless you want to play the under on the shot line or something. But there's some guys where their shot lines are just a little out of reach for their general hit rate, but then you see that he's still rolling, getting goals in 5 straight, and that's still plus money. So just a different route to take.
do you know how Washington is against positions off the top of your head, and more particularly against centers? I'm going to look into it.
Not off the top of my head. I would need to look at.
I'm going to just check out our good buddy Shot Props on Twitter with a Z on the end. He puts out some nice positional. If everyone could bear with me while I load up his Twitter. Curious how Washington is to centers. Here it is. Let's see. I would love to see them at the top here to just bring this down. Sorry for the little bit of dead air. Washington.
You're like Sherlock Holmes right now.
13th most to centers. So at least they're up there. Not bad. I wanted that because Nugent Hopkins hitting more recently, had four in his last two. But I wanted to look back a little further. His last 5 games against Washington, he's gone over 2.5 shots every time, and he's got 9 points, 5 of which are goals.
Okay, so he just doesn't like the Capitals.
So that's just a little peek into how I think his shots are interesting. We brought it up at the top of the show. I am sensing that turn in shots on goal. I'm starting to feel confident again, but I've been putting half a unit on a lot of them just to kind of limit the exposure. I might do a half unit Hopkins shots and a half unit on his goal. Just put a whole unit into him and see if this history leads to another hit, because it looks really solid. And I like Edmonton for shots and goals. So why not just listen to this history?
Yeah, I like that. I like that angle. I probably, if I sit there and dig through might have gotten to him, but yeah, I wouldn't have expected that history against them, so that's really nice.
All right, I think we could keep it moving because we are going to come back to a couple looks on the Washington end in best bets or pick a play of the day. Let's go Arizona, Calgary. I know for the guys and gals who've been watching this show most of the time, Walla really likes to just focus in on two Calgary shooters, and he has a hard time making up his mind.
Every game.
So here we are again. So why don't you paint us a little picture?
Yeah, so I think two guys who look really good for shots, and they're like right at the same price too. So there's no there's no help in that respect. Hannafin and Lindholm. Um, I like that. I like Hannafin just because I think he's hitting back-to-back games, and his volume might have dipped for a little bit, but it's coming back. And defenseman against the Coyotes, we always like that. Hannafin's been just solid all around. I think he should get his chances tonight. Um, but then I'm torn because Lindholm's just been looking really great lately. I think he's hit this line previously against Arizona at home. He's really firing away. He's got 4+ in a few games. His volume just looks really nice. So I'm torn between both those guys. Not that I mean they could probably both do it. There's no reason really why they can't. They both shoot on the power play, so should get their chances there. So I like both those guys, and I lean Lindholm goal again. I think I'm gonna end up putting a half unit on that again. He's hit it in 2 in a row. Last game was pretty lucky. 4 seconds left in the game, he got a goal, but he's scored in 3 straight versus Arizona. Um, and you know he had like a 10-game streak last season, so he's a guy who can just get really hot. And I don't want to. I got it last game, so I've got some room to work with here with some money. Put another half unit on Lindholm for a goal tonight. I saw plus 165, but he likes playing Arizona, and he's heating up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Calgary's team total. It's probably horrible at 3.5, but if that's reasonable, I mean, on paper, it's a really clean sweep. Calgary's shooting 35 times a game and averaging 3.5, and Arizona letting up over 34 shots, 3.4 goals, and the most power play opportunities in the league. I wish I could help break your tie with Hannafin and Lindholm shots. At least they're both playable straight around minus 130, but power play involvement wise, it goes Lindholm at 17 shots, and then Kadri, Toffoli, and Hannafin at 16. So both involved. Maybe the tiebreaker goes to Hannafin because Arizona is such a good defenseman target. It's hard. They both look good. This might be a game I just try to get a piece of Calgary dominating and not worry about who it is that's involved. Their last couple against, I don't have it up at the moment, but I know they scored 9 goals last time they faced Arizona, and I believe 5 the time before, 5 or 4. So I'm expecting plenty of goals in Calgary tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Might be wise depending on what the odds are to go with the total there, team total. But I imagine, like you said, it's not great. Yeah, I might. We'll see. Maybe I just play trust it. Think they all could come through. But we both have somebody on the other side that we're contemplating. Maybe a half unit or something. So we got Chikrin, who's just volume is out of control. He's shooting so much. He's got a 3.5 line, and it's against the Flames, which is not a great target. So that's where you might have some pause, but they do hand out some power plays. And Chikrin, I think you had mentioned that he's already moving up the chart in power play shots for Arizona, and he has not played nearly as many games.
It was hilarious actually when I was putting together the numbers this morning. Chikrin's only played in 6 games this year. Let me double check that. Yeah, 6. He's got 12 power play shots already, which is tied for 3rd on the team. I mean, that's 2 a game. So when a guy's line is 3.5 and he's facing a team in Calgary who's letting up 3.63 power play opportunities per game, which is, top half of the league. That's hard to pass up on. People have been joking. I actually don't even know if it's a joke, but just saying that Chikrin's trying to shoot his way off this team, just show how dominant he is until someone will free him from Arizona. I mean, the volume's absurd.
This would be a good spot to show out against a team like the Flames. I think in a meeting last season he had 5 shots on goal against them.
He
So
did, and an assist.
he shows he can do it. That's
Well,
just the worry is just that they're 4th against shots overall.
yeah, honestly the bigger worry to me is just how tight they've been the defensemen. I think second fewest shots. We've talked about how much weight to put into those numbers before, but I do put a decent amount into defensemen. But again, the Flames do let up penalties. Coyotes don't shoot a ton, but Chikrin's, I mean, he's got to be accounting for close to like a fifth of this team's volume right now with his shots on. And as long as he gets those chances, he's going to be firing. It's hard to pass up. Might have to do a half unit at plus 122. It's just too good to ignore. And it's not always about the opponent.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was at. If I'm going to do it, it'll probably be a half unit play.
Let's keep it moving because it's 12:42 here. I do like that game. I hope you can figure out your Lindholm Hannafin sooner before later. I'm picturing you at 4 p.m. just looking back and forth between the two of them. I think they both look solid.
Yep.
Late game, Montreal, Vancouver. Seems like another juicy one where I've written down both teams seem like viable shot targets. And I kind of like the over in this one. It's another one that caught my eye just because of the quality of the goalies. And I believe the overs hit between these two teams in 3 of their last 4. So what are you seeing here?
Yeah, last night when I was looking through, this was one I was just off the bat. I was just kind of like, I think it could go over. I like this matchup. I have a look in this game that I am using in a play, pairing it with somebody we mentioned earlier. And I think the over looks good. I was looking through some points and I saw Suzuki's at 1 point, which is pretty juiced. He's equal in terms of points on home and road, but he scores more on the road. It's kind of like he's like Caulfield at home scores a bunch, and then Suzuki takes over on the road to score some goals. So looking at the over in this game, and seeing that, if I might look Suzuki's way for a point if I use him in a parlay or something like that. Maybe him and Caulfield to get a point. But I like the over in this game and some shots for sure. I think both sides can get off some shots here.
I definitely favor Vancouver for shots a little bit more. Montreal has finally inched up to that upper half in power play opportunities allowed, but they've for a while been, I think, in the top 5 for just power play shots allowed. So even though they weren't handing out as many as a lot of other teams, when they did, teams were just peppering them. So the cast of characters that kind of stand out there are Horvat, JT Miller, and Patterson are the top 3. But even guys like Kuzmenko and Quinn Hughes have been getting involved. I wish Besser was on that list. I don't know if you saw him against Montreal. He got 4 shots the other day against Arizona. He hadn't hit in 6 before that, but he has loved the Canadians. 4, 4, and 5 shots in their last 3, which includes a game in November.
Yeah, I think
plus 110.
I think before last game, wasn't he initially like scratched and then they brought him back in and then then he played has a goal, I think. So maybe that was a little fire.
Wow, is that really what happened? Because if AO is listening to this, he forgot to remind me because he did flag Besser was benched and said next game we got to bet him.
Yeah, I think he was initially not supposed to play. I thought he was scratched, and then or maybe it was heading that way, but then he ended up playing and he scored. So that could have been a wake up call to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking back, similar to Nugent Hopkins. Besser's over in four straight against Montreal. He scored twice in the last four. He's got a point in a lot of games against the Canadians. That's interesting. That yeah, little fire lit under the guy.
Hmm. Yeah, I that'll be interesting to see if he can get going because we brought it up before last season. He was such a reliable guy, so love to see him get back to that.
Um, why don't we transition into best bets here? Because I know you have a guy in this Vancouver game that is a part of one of your best bets.
Yeah,
So why don't you shine a light on what that is?
yeah. So I'm doing a shot parlay. I put half a unit on it. One guy from Washington and then one guy from Vancouver. Uh, I'll start with the guy in Vancouver since we're just in that game. I'm going with Pedersen, over 2.5 shots on goal. He's been just so consistent at that line. I forget how many straight he's hit it in, but he's on a nice streak. I think he had 4 the last time these teams met. And you mentioned the power play. He's one of those guys who can get shots on the power play. And if Montreal, if they're letting up more now, a huge bonus there. They're already letting up shots. So at that 2.5 line, it's pretty heavy juice. Had to pair it with something, and I went with Carlson from Washington. He's been great this season. He had hit 3.5 as a line for a bit when there's some people missing, but he's back down at 2.5 now, and he's still been solid there. I just like the target in Edmonton, who's been a nice defenseman target, power play chances, which Carlson should definitely be looking to shoot on the power play with Ovechkin. So those two guys together just made a lot of sense to me, and it came in at plus 158, and I did a half a unit on that. And I like both looks. Don't get me wrong. I'm just doing a half a unit. It's just added risk and everything. Still a very solid price to me at plus 158 to make a nice little profit off a half unit bet there. And if one guy has a dud game, I'm not losing a whole unit. But they look great to me in their spots. So I paired those two together.
Yeah, I think that combo is super strong. Patterson looks great. Carlson to me is probably my favorite target of the day. I was joking with you. The worst part about that parlay you concocted is that Pedersen doesn't play till 10:30, and Carlson's at 8:30. So that's just a lot of time twiddling your thumbs, waiting to say bang for a cash. That's personal choice. I like to try and pair things at the same time.
Solution there is to obviously I'll have to consider putting half a unit on Carlson at 4 shots.
There you go.
It's a nice spot, and maybe that could always be a look because it is a nice matchup there. But yeah, I know I felt the same way having to wait in the middle, but just solid spots. Couldn't look away.
Yeah, no, I think that's super solid. I'm very intrigued just to sort of summarize a little bit best bets on my end. I think I'm going to be running probably all half units, but Kempfer and Bergeron and Nugent Hopkins to score really stood out to me from jumping into this with everybody. Um, I really like. I'll wait on Kempfer just to hear about Lehkonen, but
Mhm.
I think those are solid looks. I think Bergeron shots too is solid. Why don't we transition now to pick and play of the day? Spot you locked in, I think looks really awesome as well. Also on Washington.
Yeah, so this is one. It's probably my favorite play overall today. Uh, we got Dylan Strom on Washington for a point. He's at minus 122, and he's been getting a good amount of production, a little bit more recently than at the start of the season. But on the road, he's been solid for Washington. He has a point in 5 of his last 6 games. Uh, when these teams met, we had mentioned that we see guys who shoot a lot, score a lot, and last time these two played, he had 3 points, and he has been getting more assists lately. But when he did play against Edmonton, he had a couple goals there. So I think at -122 for just a point in general, it looks really good. He's up on the power play. He's on a line with Ovechkin, so um, they should have some chances, especially if Edmonton keeps giving up some penalties. So I thought that was a really solid look. He's gonna be out there in multiple situations, and assist felt strong at plus money, but just seeing that he's had some goals, and I was hoping for Campbell in net, but looking at Skinner lately, he's starting to loosen up a bit. He had been stronger, and now we're seeing a little bit more balancing out in recent games. He's been letting up goals, so I think Strome's a really good look here all around. He could get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate the power play point angle as well. If you're feeling a little riskier, Edmonton really just they're handing out a ton and they can't stop them. I think Saturday is such a good example. Montreal is not a great power play scoring team at all. So much so that like when I take in some of these numbers, like the power play point leaders on Montreal have had like 3 points for a while compared to most teams. Their leaders got close to 10. Edmonton gave Montreal 3 power plays on Saturday, and Canadians buried 2 of them. So I definitely think Caps can score again. Scoring the power play as well. Strome been involved touching that puck. So I like that look a lot. And that's going to kind of power the over for me, which I think I'm going to bring to the finish line.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, solid little 6-game slate here. Excited about how the market is turning. I'm feeling good with our reads. Thank you to Pickett for making this possible. Thanks to Gold Boys. Thanks for everyone joining. Hope you learned something. Hope you found some bets that resonated with you as we kind of meandered down this slate a little bit without so much locked in, which I think can be fun too. Not just necessarily going on a monologue about a guy, but just showing how we're looking into things and using different tools to find some interesting looks.
Yep. Yeah. I guess you've pretty much summed up everything there. So all I got left is to say good luck to everybody, and thanks for tuning in, listening to us, and hopefully we all have a good night.